Welcome to the Family Office Sherpa podcast. I'm your host, Shaun Parkin, founder and managing director of Whole Road Investments. The aim of this podcast is to provide practical and implementable advice for those looking to build, manage, or service a family office. This is not investment advice, however, so please check the disclaimer in the show notes. In this episode, we are saying to clients, don't create an echo chamber for your investment office.
This is the Family Office Sherpa.
So what does that mean? Well, basically, when feedback loops, so that you say something, someone comes back with something, when it's limited, and I guess things like governance lack a voice outside of the immediate office, what we start to see is decision-making becoming insular, and with that insularity, risk, right? Potentially risky. If you're not getting that counter argument or that devil's advocate argument or even just a diversity of thought, this is what we see. It goes out, it comes back exactly the same. You have no one challenging you. You have potentially, and it's not necessarily that it's designed that way. It's just because family offices particularly are quite flat in structure. So you might have just one or two people making these decisions. So if you don't have external voices and someone challenging, or at least even, it's not even about challenging, it's about giving an alternative or giving another view or adding to the view. So what I'm going to talk about today is really what I've seen, which is when there's an absence of diversity of input or an external challenge, what I've seen is it can undermine even the most well-intentioned, well-structured investment team or a family. So what I'm going to do is go through what I've been saying and then give some practical steps to, I guess, create some feedback in the ecosystem and what I've seen work well with family office, how they've really approached it. So what am I hearing? So at the CIO level, so the Chief Investment Officer level, because the structures might be really small, so you get families that say, well, we want to have an internal person. Great. So when they bring them in, and then they just sort of leave them to it, or they just sort of say, well, you know, we particularly believe in you, so you go ahead and do it yourself. We're not really going to be here for diversity of the inputs, or we might not be looking at other things, or we might be in the philanthropic piece, or whatever it ends up being. And so you find those people not necessarily, I don't know if isolated is the term, but at least sort of saying, well, I would like some internal feedback around sort of what I'm doing to make sure I'm doing it correctly, to make sure that it's like anything. It's like my business, right? I always ask for feedback from clients, from trusted advisors, from mentors and things like that. So this is what you need. So, but the CIO level is really challenging because you're making investment decisions and you kind of live or die by those decisions as an investor. And so you want people to say, well, have we looked at everything? And this is why having sort of that external inputs can be super helpful, because what is it? If you don't have them, what do we see? We see blind spots in decisions being made or strategy, and that confirmation bias or that reinforcement of your internal assumptions with, even if they're wrong, there's no one there to sort of go, well, have we reconciled that with other, even things like, what do we see? Capital market expectations or something like that. We expect public equities to give us this level of return over this period. How do you come up with those sorts of things? If there's no challenge or if there's no reconciliation or some sort of feedback, then it becomes very difficult. And you also miss things like benchmarking opportunities against others, peers. You know, advisors are actually really good. Having external advisors is really quite helpful, especially those that deal with a lot of other family offices, because there can be an element of what are they doing. So that benchmarking piece is super helpful. What are the other things that I see? We'll see what ends up happening is there's no diversity of thought. We've all heard of groupthink, and it can lead to things like overconfidence in poor decisions, basically. So that lack of challenge also reduces things like risk awareness and innovation. So this is all this diversity of thought. And what it also means is that if you don't have diversity of thought, or you don't have someone there saying, well, that doesn't fit within the way that I view the world or something like that, you have difficulty adapting to market shifts or what you're looking for, which is opportunities or contrarian opportunities. This is why there's this sort of question around why we use strategists, because people are quite negative on some of them because ultimately they don't know what exactly is going to happen. But if you talk to a really good strategist from a bank or a wealth manager or asset manager or whatever, what they can do is they can identify contrarian opportunities. So just because we look at it like this, and like I said, if there's no diversity and there's just this echo chamber, then it's very difficult to be contrarian if everyone's thinking the same. So diversity of thought is very super, that's what I'm saying as well. The other thing is if there's no external members in an investment committee or whatever your governance structure looks like. So if you have an investment committee because an investment committee is a governance structure, as we know, and if you've got no one outside of the office, then it's very hard to have accountability when everyone is looking for that same thing, which is to sort of get the entire family office to move in a single direction, right? And so if you have an external investment committee member, they're usually the ones that put their hand up and say, well, I don't know why we're doing this, or please let me understand what we're trying to do here because I've heard this, or the other family officers that I work with or talk to are saying it this way, or I talked to this strategist at this point, or whatever it ends up being. So that investment committee is an incredibly powerful governance structure, but it's also a very powerful feedback structure because, I sit on investment committees. I'm not there. I'm not part of the family. I'm not part of the investment team. I'm not part of the office really on a full-time basis. I come in monthly or quarterly and say, well, this is, a lot of the governance sort of questions are around, does it match the investment policy, things like that. But also I meet a lot of family offices. I also talk to a lot of strategists. I also talk to a lot of investment people. So having that diversity of thought within the investment committee, just sort of say, well, is this truly what we're trying? Is this going to get us to what we want to achieve? If we've got this return, or we've got this risk, this is what other people are saying. So if you don't have that, what it also does is it sort of concentrates power and decision-making within a small, and let's face it, potentially underqualified group. Because just because you've made a significant amount of money doing something doesn't mean that you are now or you don't have expertise or experience in managing things like diversified multi-asset class portfolios or whatever it ends up being. So just having that external person to come in and go, this is where, that's someone that's qualified as well. And also if you don't have external people, it makes the succession planning a bit of a challenge too. So if it's just people within the office, finding someone external that can sort of talk outside of the office can provide really good guidelines and rails for succession, either family member succession into the investment committee or bringing someone new in. So that's how. So don't create an echo chamber where there's no external members of the investment committee or the governance structure. So what's the best version that I've seen, or the better versions that I've seen of having a feedback loop in the office investments? Like I said, having an independent investment committee member is there to challenge assumptions constructively, right? Making sure that, and this is the thing as well that I find, people are saying, well, are they going to argue with us? Are they going to look at the way that we invest and think it's not the right way or something like that? Absolutely not. So this is your money. This isn't a wealth management business, an asset management or private bank or whatever. You're managing the assets for one family. A good investment committee member understands that, and you have your own biases and your own interests and things like that, and you lean into them. Do that how you want. But having someone there to say, well, this is one way that we're doing it, or this is the way others are doing it, is not there to be a bottleneck or argumentative or overly bureaucratic and process-driven. That investment committee is there to make sure that we're doing what we said we would do, and that our suppliers and our investment managers are doing what we asked them to do. So just maybe have a think about that as well. Another thing that we see is having a regular review and retrospective sessions on past decisions, some sort of not reconciliation, but you know what I mean. So we look back at how we decided over these periods, and we look at those decisions and the outcomes came from it. So just having a review, just having an ability to sort of say, well, how did this work out? Did we bring external people into it? Was there a diversity of thought? Did we still come up with the best option? Another one is to sort of engage with peer officers or other family officers. I'm starting to see that a lot lately, which is awesome. And I do get called on by family officers to say, well, we're going to be in, well, this is in Australia generally, we're going to be in Sydney, or we're going to be in Melbourne, or we're going to be in Perth, we're going to be in Brisbane, Adelaide, whatever it ends up being. Do you know some officers that we should catch up with? And it's always absolutely. And the thing about it too is other officers are really keen to talk to other officers that are coming into town. So that's a really, really good piece. So if you're a family officer and you're saying, well, we're going to be traveling to wherever, New York, London, whatever, or to Australia, or just reach out. Start talking to people. You get diversity. Not only that, you get diversity of thought through geographies and all sorts of cool stuff. So that's what I would do. So engage with peers, external advisors. Even if you're not using external advisors are usually keen to catch up with family officers. I know I am. I talk to a lot of family officers that are not my clients. I get a lot from them. Hopefully they get something from me. It's just, again, that diversity of thought, that not creating this echo chamber of just saying the same thing and everyone agreeing, and really start to dig in where market intelligence comes through. So, I mean, I write the newsletter and this podcast, and a lot of it is just trying to, impart some information. The newsletter in particular is about finding or curating, all the information out there. And we're starting to get some really good thought leadership pieces. And there are a significant amount of wealth manager, asset manager types that are concentrating on family offices. Professional services have been doing a good job there too, accounting and things like that. So, yeah, have a look at those as well. If you're interested, I've got plenty of them. I've got so many reports and all of them are really interesting. And the other thing, and I can't say this enough, which is get your structured reporting and dashboards in place, because they take data and they can overlay it over the portfolio. Risk metrics, pacing software, analytics, all those sorts of things. Not just about IRR or money on invested capital or whatever your performance metric is. It's about taking your investments and overlaying it with external data sets and research and things like that, and saying, are we doing this the right way? And that's a really, really powerful thing to do. So even if you're going Excel and all the rest of it, I mean, one of the big reasons for getting better reporting software is the fact that there's so much great data that we can overlay over the portfolio and say, from a factor weight perspective, from all that sort of stuff, and get an understanding of what we were exposed to, and then overlay it with research, overlay it with external strategy, things like that. So, yeah. That's what I would say. That's the better versions that I've seen. And what can you do to improve yours? Really simply, add more independent voices. Add more independent voices to your investment or governance committees. Really super easy. Create a process, like a formal process for post-investment reviews and decision audits. And again, I don't want to sound like an institutional type person, but having some look back at the way that you've decided and managed things is always a good idea. You don't really have to do things like decision audits per se, but going back and looking at it is really super helpful. Invite, and I have seen this, which is a external review of your investment strategy and portfolio structure. That's something that can be done. I mean, to be honest, I had done work in that space in terms of saying, well, this is, clients have come to me and said, this is our investment office structure. What's your feedback? And sometimes it's, there's a couple of things that we can tweak or we can change, or we can talk about it in terms of getting a better outside voice associated with it. The other thing you do is rotate the advisors, or have something maybe like a review panel. Again, I don't want to create more complexity here. So maybe when I say rotate advisors, I don't mean take out your investment committee member and change them over all the time. It's more, how about external guests? Maybe that's it. Maybe just bring external guests in. We do that with a couple of investment committees I sit on, which is we bring out a quarterly guest and they come in and they're a specialist, or they're very, they're nichey, but they're able to articulate things that we probably wouldn't see internally. So that's always a very good idea. And, get benchmarking in place. Test out your strategy and see if it works on a performance perspective, but also things like investments and what have you got in the portfolio, the way that you're doing it, the way you're implementing it, all these sorts of things. So having some version of benchmarking. So hopefully that was helpful. I know that it's a space that is a moving feast, and some people don't like giving up some of this control. They like to cap it all internally. But if I could make any recommendation, it's to go outside, to look at outside views, to talk to people. Don't create that echo chamber, because it's not good for you. It's not good for the investments. It's not good for your staff. So that was it. If it was of interest, make sure you set the alert and rate it, little bell dingy thing. If you're looking for more family office insights, be sure to join the thousands of other subscribers to the Family Office Sherpa newsletter. You can find that at hallroad, HALLROAD.com.au. It's going for its 6th year now. And it's like I said, it's a curated bit of outside view. So maybe that's helpful. If you're looking for assistance in establishing, managing, or putting together governance structures for your family office, then please reach out. Feel free to reach me on LinkedIn, quite active there, or email me directly at Shaun, that's SHAUN, @hallroad.com.au. Until next time, thanks for listening.